Attention Delaware small business owners. If you're looking to grow in 2025, I encourage you to check out the Delaware Division of Small Business Edge Grant Competition. STEM companies can earn up to $100,000 and entrepreneur class companies up to $50,000. Applicants must employ 10 or fewer individuals, be majority located right here in Delaware, and have been in operation less than 7 years.
For more information, visit de.gov/edge.
If you've been paying attention, and I hope that you have, you know that we are once again at an inflection point in this country. Executive orders are being drafted in Washington, policies that will impact millions. And here in Delaware, the question isn't just what they say, but what they mean for the people who live and work here. The Trump administration is making moves on immigration, federal funding, and privacy, and setting the stage for legal battles and political clashes. So where does Delaware stand? Better yet, who's standing up for you? Enter Attorney General Kathy Jennings, a career prosecutor, a defender of civil rights, and Delaware's top law enforcement official. But how strong is the law as a shield against an administration willing to test its limits? Today, we get the answers. This just isn't about politics. It's about rights and the rule of law and what happens next. Attorney General Kathy Jennings, welcome to the agenda.
Thank you, Kerwin, for having me today.
No problem. I think this is your third time, second or third time?
I've been here multiple times.
Yeah, spoken like a true attorney. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. There is so much going on. And now we're at that state, and we've been there before, where honestly, every time my phone buzzes from my news media alerts, I'm not sure what it's going to be. 2 weeks ago, there were several executive orders that were issued, and people are wondering how this affects them as Delawareans. And I can report it as much as I can and try to ensure everyone that our top legal officials have our best interest in mind, but I think it's better coming from them, right? And coming from you and letting Delawareans know where they stand. So we love having you on the show today and hope that you can speak to that a little bit.
Sure, and once again, thank you. It's a pleasure always to be with you.
Thank you.
The top concern that I have for our Delaware residents is that they be informed, that they be safe, and that paramount among those priorities is that we take care of the people we serve, and we are responsive to the people we serve. We have been responsive, unfortunately, because the Trump administration has acted quickly. We have been responsive in multiple areas. He has issued executive orders trying to do away with birthright citizenship for people living in our country. He has issued executive orders trying to cut off funding to states. In Delaware, last year, in fiscal year 2024, we got $5.2 billion in federal money that was essential for education, healthcare, childcare, and law enforcement. Our police, our fire, they depend on this money. And so we're on top of it, and we can talk about what action I have taken along with.
I would love to. And so, and everybody wants to hear that too. And you know, for me, talking to Delaware's top law enforcement official, I made the comment before, so many of, I know that Trump's voters, I saw just as many Blue Lives Matter flags as I saw Trump flags, and a lot of them go hand in hand. Well, to me, besides, I don't want to get into pardoning January 6th folks that actually injured law enforcement executives. I won't go there with you, but for people to understand, a lot of that federal money is going to law enforcement and supporting it. And there's salaries of law enforcement and actual police officers that are half federal funds and half this, and you know, and to make them whole. And when those are taken away, it affects people. It affects it. Are you truly saying that Blue Lives Matter?
That's right. And the latest threat by the Trump administration to fire every FBI agent who participated in the investigation of the January 6th insurrection, where police officers were attacked, physically attacked, and some lost their lives, where they were trying to repel a mob that wanted to hang the vice president.
Made it clear.
Made it clear. And so our law enforcement was the only line of defense that day. And so to fire FBI agents in our jurisdiction and other jurisdictions all over the country who investigated that insurrection is outrageous and unconscionable. We are asking Congress to ask the nominee Kash Patel some more questions about that intent. In our own state, in Delaware, why is this important? FBI agents each and every day help to keep us safe. They work on task forces with our local law enforcement agencies and our office to investigate violent criminal gangs. And they work on anti-drug trafficking initiatives each and every day in Delaware. And it's up to us to make sure they're protected.
Yeah, and it hits home for me. I have a FBI agent in my family, and having that conversation with them and saying, are you okay? Are things going to be okay for you? And he can't tell me what he worked on, but was this part of what you worked on? And are you going to be in our basement here sooner or later living? It's that type of thing. It concerns me, but Delawareans want to know where our government stands, because that's really what it comes down to. We were fortunate enough with President Biden where we didn't know our president per se. A lot of people knew our president, right? But we knew where he stood. We don't have that anymore, right? So we're depending heavily on local government and to know where they stand and their ideas. So hearing that from you is very, very comforting. The other part is when it comes to immigration. So many Delawareans have asked me questions, Carl, what does this mean in regards to immigration? Where do we stand? Is ICE going to be coming through our neighborhood? And so I don't really know. I don't know the answers. I don't know what protections we have and what the expectations are.
Right now, what I want to try to do is convey that there is a big difference between misinformation, fear-mongering, and what is actually going on in Delaware. And so that's why I issued Know Your Rights on our website. It's up there. It's available to everyone to read. And we're dealing with what has actually happened and trying to make sure that fear-mongering is not going on. I realize people are afraid.
Yes, they are.
And so in Delaware, there have been ICE enforcement actions taken against individuals. There has been no mass roundup, no mass raids against all immigrants. Having said that, we are prepared. When President Trump tried to take away birthright citizenship, it is guaranteed by the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. We sued in court and we won. So right now, he cannot do that. People who live in our state individually have rights. Dreamers who need health care in our state, people who have lived in America for their entire lives have rights. And so it's important for people to know what those rights are, but it's also important not to panic.
There's a lot of panic, and panic goes back to that fear mongering that you're talking about, right? And it's been a successful tactic by this administration and forced down to our citizens.
That's right. If an individual has committed a crime, that's who's being targeted right now for the most part by ICE. If an individual who is in this country illegally has committed a crime, they're going to be subject to deportation. And that's as it should be. That is the law, and we all have to follow the rule of law. But for other people who are afraid to leave their houses, to go to work, to go to places of worship, to send their children to school, those types of roundups are not happening here, unlike in some cities like Chicago and other cities in New York and Philadelphia even. That's not happening here. What is happening is that people with criminal records are being targeted, and they can and will be deported. Local law enforcement in general does not have a role here, but they can sign agreements to work with ICE officials. They're called 287 agreements, and that would enable them to work alongside law enforcement. To date, I don't believe any of our 40-some law enforcement agencies have signed those agreements. That doesn't mean they won't. It means to date, they have not done that. So I want to ensure people that local law enforcement, whether it's the Delaware State Police, the Newcastle County Police, the Georgetown Police, the Dover Police, they are focused on public safety. And it's really important to know that, because there's a distinction between ICE enforcement and our local law enforcement. Local law enforcement is trying to prevent crimes from happening and investigating them when they do happen. Violent crime in our state is at historic lows, thanks to the interaction we have with law enforcement, getting the job done, making sure people are safer. And that's working. We don't want to disrupt that. But we are aware that there are efforts to deport people who are here either because they have committed crimes or they are deportable. Some people return to this country over and over again after they've been deported. But there are rights people have who are immigrants in our state. They have the right to be protected against unlawful searches, against unlawful seizures and detentions, and they should know what those rights are specifically. That's why we put out the guidance, and it's available to anyone on our website. And it's important to know your rights.
It is. Do you foresee an uptick, like possibly, especially in Sussex County, with planting season coming up within the next, 60 to 90 days, and we have an influx of migrant workers that work our agriculture in the state, which is our largest provider of the economy here in the state of Delaware is agriculture. I worry about them, you know what I mean? Especially with some of our chicken factories downstate and so many of these other things. Is there something that's being prepared, or we're just waiting to see what's going to happen? And I'm interested to know from an AG's perspective.
What I think is happening is exactly what the Trump administration intends, which is to spread fear among everyone. But there have been no raids of poultry factories. There have been no mass raids of farms. And people in those situations, they have rights.
Yes, they do.
They have the right not to be seized illegally, and they have the right not to be searched illegally. They have specific rights when they're in their own home that deserve protection. And so know your rights, know what you can do, know what you can't do. Make sure that if you are out in public that you're carrying your immigration documents. You must show them if asked. But you do have the right to privacy.
Right.
And that is for everybody in our state, whether you are here lawfully or not. It is surprising to me, frankly, that there would be any attempt to disrupt commerce in our state. It makes no sense to me because Delaware relies on the poultry industry. Delaware relies on construction of homes and of businesses. Sussex County is having a construction boom.
Why would we slow that down?
Why would we slow that down? There are people working on construction jobs. I mean, who goes up on a rooftop in 95-degree weather in the middle of the summer?
All day.
All of that.
All day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we protect those people because they're contributing members of our society. They're paying taxes. They're working really hard at tough jobs, and we need to honor and respect that.
And the socioeconomic impacts, I don't think are very well weighed out in regards to decision making. You said that you can't figure out why we would do that. I'm going to be honest, and I try not to be partisan in regards to this broadcast, but I don't understand a lot that comes from that administration in regards to why. And this goes back to you and your leadership and our wonderful Governor Matt Meyer. I know that there's an agenda that they're trying to push. And I don't know exactly what that is yet, besides fear and trying to slow down the government. I get that, but I believe that there's something higher there. I find it very interesting from a legal perspective how one of the richest men in the country is now controlling the checkbook from the Treasury office, and how that affects Delawareans. I know that your administration the state just had an awesome win with the OMB's office in regards to stopping federal funding and how that affects. But I don't know, Ms. Jennings. I don't know.
Well, I think it's exactly what you said. It's the sowing of fear and the ensuing chaos. And that is not healthy for our country. It's just flat out unhealthy, and it's wrong, and it's terrorizing people. They're out there afraid. Am I going to get a Social Security check?
Right.
Is my, child's preschool going to close? Can I get health care? And so what we did, the president, if people are aware, and I think pretty much everybody's aware at this point, that the president froze federal funding that comes to states.
Right.
And Delaware in FY24, so fiscal year 24, got $5.2 billion in federal funding. And that covered everything. We talked about police, we talked about healthcare, school, et cetera. And we said, you can't do that. This is money that Congress has already appropriated.
Right.
Our senators, our congresswomen, they have already appropriated this money. And so it's going out the door, and you can't stop it. That's why we have what's called separation of powers. There is the executive branch, which the president controls, and there is the legislative branch. And it's the legislative branch that appropriated that money. So we sued the administration and said this memo that froze all federal funding to states is illegal. And a federal judge said yes, and you have to open up that money to the purpose for which it was allocated. You can't stop it.
Right.
We're still fighting that fight. The case is not over, but right now we have what's called a restraining order that restrains the president from stopping that funding, and that's a good thing for Delaware.
Right.
And so the money should be flowing freely at this point. But what the president's people did is they shut down websites, they shut down portals that enable people to access their
payment
funds.
Portals, right? Yeah.
Payment portals were shut down. Now we've heard that they're getting private information about individuals through the U.S. Treasury.
How can you? I'm sorry, but I just don't know how people could do their jobs, and they're not supposed to do their jobs, and that's part of the tactic by threatening them, witch hunting them, so to speak. If they disagree with your overall tactic in regards to do that, having that I think is essential not only in federal government but also in state government. I find it very interesting.
That's right, and I'm so lucky to be able to do this job for the people of the state of Delaware. I care deeply about their welfare, and I will say that we're going to fight like hell. Sorry, we're going to fight like hell every step of the way to make sure that they are protected and that they are not harmed by these policies and dictates of an individual whose purpose I'm not clear on. We are not going to.
It's a very nice way to put it.
We're not going to fight every single fight that is out there. I mean, that would occupy everybody's time and then some. We're going to fight the fights that matter. Immigration matters. Birthright citizenship matters. Having your rights protected matter. And making sure that the funds that are supposed to be coming to you each and every day, that you paid taxes on for years and years, that they continue to flow to you. That matters. And that's what we're doing.
And people tend to forget that, and I think the people that tend to forget that seem to be in the White House currently, is that this is not your money. This is taxpayer money that we've placed into your trust and into the trust of our government, and they made their decisions. You don't get to come in at the last minute willy-nilly and then make some other decision in regards to my tax dollars that are benefiting me, my family, my community, and what have you. So I think the best word that I can use is gall. There's a lot of gall into making that decision and moving forward with it. I find it very interesting. But the decision that was made by that judge in regards to the restraining order, how long is that for? Is that temporary restraining order? Am I using the term correctly? Or is that something that's just going to stay in place for a while?
No, Kerwin, you got it right. It's a temporary restraining order. The next move is to get a more permanent restraining order. And so we're working on that. I think it's going to take place within the next 2 weeks. And so in the meantime, we're gathering our arsenal of evidence and the law. And we are going to fight, and we are going to win.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, the president gets to set very broad policies. And one of those is obviously to trim the federal budget and to make the federal government more efficient. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I'm in favor of it.
Yes.
I'm in favor of efficiency, but to what extent?
You just have to obey the law when you do it.
Right.
And you have to acknowledge that there is Congress and there is a judiciary and there are state government officials, governors, attorneys general. And you have to obey the law or we will hold you accountable.
And he should be used to that, being held accountable by the courts. I'll leave that one there. But for the most part, that hasn't slowed him or his administration down. One issue that I would like to address, believe it or not, we're almost at the end of the interview, is a guarantee that, and I don't know if you can give a guarantee at this point, but civil rights. It seems as though those are under scrutiny as well. Whether it's race and gender, DEI, so many things. Assurances, are you able to give them now to Delawareans that their civil rights will be kept in this time of uncertainty?
Absolutely. We are a nation that exists because of the laws that have been passed to protect us. We have a constitution. You cannot violate the Constitution and get away with it. Not on our watch.
Right.
And so yes, taking away birthright citizenship is a really good example of this. Following the Civil War, the U.S. Supreme Court issued one of the worst decisions, if not the worst decision it ever issued, which was that the children of slaves were not entitled to U.S. citizenship. And so the 14th Amendment was passed. And in the 14th Amendment, it guarantees people born in this country are Americans. They are United States citizens. We will never, never let that be violated.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this time on the agenda. Ms. Jennings, we hope that you come back again.
I will.
We appreciate it every single time that you're here. And getting that information is what we wanted to do. We wanted to ensure that you, Delawareans, that you, folks that are uncertain at home in regards to what your rights are, where you stand, and the people that are defending those rights for you, know that they know that you know where they stand in regards to this. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you continue to tune in. Be sure to comment below. We're also going to have the website for Delawareans that they know how to get information from the Department of Justice here. For those that have some uncertainty, please check this website out. So we will make sure that that information gets out, and stay tuned. Look forward to seeing you right here on the agenda.